Hi, this is TapCat. Welcome to part 1 of Let's Play Prison Architect. This is an alpha build, and so we can expect plenty of rough edges. I don't expect to do a long series on this. We're going to go through the tutorial in this session, and then in future installments we're going to attempt to build our own prison. Depending on how it goes, how stable it is and so forth, and how much interest there is from you viewers, we'll see how long it goes. But I thought the game looked really interesting and different, and so we're going to give it a shot and just see how it goes. One word of warning, this is pretty different from a typical tutorial. We are going to get to walk through some of the basics of prison management and construction, but a lot of it involves a story that we're going to follow. So with that said, let's get started. Well, this is our first chance to actually interact with the game. It's a phone call from the CEO telling us we have a tough situation. There's a prisoner incarcerated at this facility who's been convicted of a double murder and sentenced to death. And that's where we come in. We've been contracted to construct an execution chamber in time for the guy's big day. He's going to take us over and show us where we're supposed to do the deed. So this is where he wants it built. The first step with any project like this is to construct the building itself with enough space inside to fit an execution room and a holding cell. So let's get started. Construct a new building here. We'll also need an entrance to the new execution facility. Build a large jail door into the south wall. All right, Mr. CEO, I think I can handle that. So the first thing that I learned when I tried to do this is that you cannot simply paint the walls and have this work. You have to do the entire thing. You're not building the foundations of the wall. You're building the foundations for this entire room. And apparently, having done that, the CEO has a few more thoughts he needs to share with us. So, your workmen are responsible for construction of buildings. They'll collect the steel and concrete from the storeroom and take it to the construction site. They'll use those raw materials to build the foundations and framework of your new building. This is the slowest part of construction, so you should plan ahead when building new facilities. While we wait, take a look around. Use WASD or the arrow keys to move around, and use the mouse wheel to zoom in and out. Not bad advice, but if you don't mind, I'm going to go ahead and put the door in place first so that we don't have to wait for them to do that when we're done. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and zoom out. You can see it's a pretty decent sized facility. When you finish the tutorial, you get the chance to build your own. I'm pretty sure this would probably be considered a large or at least a medium prison. One thing I noticed, inside the building, I want a jail cell and an execution room. Partition the space by constructing some brick walls. So apparently sightseeing time is over. That CEO, he's a tough one. He's not big on lollygaggers. So we're going to go to materials and we're going to pick brick walls. And it's simple enough. We're just going to paint the areas that we need. And we're done. And you notice they give you a huge amount of cash compared to the amount of money we're actually spending. I have no doubt that when we get to building our own prison, resources will be considerably more limited. But for now, we're going to enjoy the fact that we can, well, I was going to say we can do what we want, but the reality is we can do what we're told. So the interface, it's relatively simple. It is an alpha build, so there's quirks and there's things that don't seem quite right. But overall, I think considering where it's at, it seems relatively intuitive. And he looks like he's putting the finishing touches on the walls. Yep. And disco. Now add large jail doors to those dividing walls. You can rotate an object before placement by clicking the middle mouse button or press R. So once again, we're going to go into objects and pick a large cell door. This one's easy because it's already oriented the right way. And I just click the middle mouse button like it said. Boom. And then again, we just wait. I would say they could stand to maybe speed that up a little bit. Like, this isn't bad, but I have already experienced a few wait times that were perhaps slightly longer than I would have preferred, but I have to admit, I haven't spent enough time in this game yet to really have much of an opinion about it. I do think it's really interesting, though. We've seen... Well, I'll hold my opinions. That's looking good. We now need to designate rooms within those spaces. Designate a cell in the smaller area where a condemned inmate will live. Then designate the execution room itself in the larger area. Okay, so this part's pretty straightforward. All we're going to do is paint the entire area as a cell, and then same thing for the execution room. We just designate the whole area for that. Now, of course, these new rooms have requirements before they become functional. And the cell needs a bed and a toilet. The execution room requires the electric chair. So our handy objects menu is going to come out once again. I'm going to grab a toilet and put it there. Obviously, they're giving me these prompts, so it's not too terribly difficult to figure out. We'll take the bed and put that there. And where is the electric chair? There it is. And we'll slam that down. A 5 large for an electric chair. Who knew it was that expensive? So now, once again, we just need to wait for our trusty construction crew. They can move in the furniture and make this place just as cozy as can be. Maybe not the execution room. I'm kind of curious to see as this thing plays out what the feel of it is. I mean, running a prison is sort of a grim thing, right? It doesn't look like this is a caged heat scenario where you run a women's prison and they sex it up or anything like that. It's just an actual prison. So there you go. He's bringing in the bed. Good to see he's fastening that down. These prisoners, they'll steal anything that's not bolted to the floor. That's the essentials taken care of, but there are still a few improvements you could make. It's up to you, though. These aren't strictly required. It depends how much you care about your prisoners and their environment. The cell itself could be improved with an outward-facing window and a small bookshelf. And the facility would look better with a higher quality floor material like wooden floorboard. God, I don't know why I'm having so much trouble reading this. And the facility would look better with a higher quality material. Okay. A higher quality floor material like wooden floorboards or mosaic tiles. We got there. Outside, you could add some lighting and a paved pathway if you think it needs it. So he gave me quite the to-do list there. But before we get around to that, they want to introduce us to the man of the hour, for lack of a better way to put it. Edward Ramsey, a teacher once, would you believe? It's not our place to decide if he deserves this. The law has made that decision. We're just here to do a job. Once you're satisfied the facility's ready, you can begin the prisoner transfer to his new cell. Simply click on him to select him, and then you can right-click outside his cell to initiate the transfer. Okay, so I actually am going to go ahead and do some of these other things. A big part of the purpose of this video is actually to help other people learn how to play this game, and I don't think doing less rather than more is necessarily the way to do that. So we're going to put a bookshelf in his cell. Seems to me like near his bed would be the most logical place for one. I'm a reader myself. I can appreciate the need to, while away the hours. Now, I saw a window, and I'm not exactly sure. It's not exactly like there's a great view, no matter where we go. Let's see. The flooring, yeah, that's another thing we can do. But we're going to put some lighting outside. That does seem like a good idea to me. That's more of a security thing than anything else. So we're going to go in here, and what we'll do is we'll do some wooden floors throughout the whole thing. And that's not only nicer for the prisoner, but when the inevitable guests come to watch him fry, why should they be standing on bare concrete floors? Let's be considerate of everybody involved in the process. And as usual, you wait while they bring in their loads and do their work. They're quite the industrious crew. You can zoom in. It's not going to be super beautiful graphics. But, it's not bad either. I think it's kind of an interesting graphic style they use, sort of like Weeblos or something. I don't know if they still make Weeblos, but they used to be a thing a long time ago. Okay, we can also build a path, and for the same reason, let's go ahead and just do that. Yeah, so we'll use paving stones. And sure. Yeah, I actually think those wood floors came out very nice, if I may say it. Okay, so at this point, I see. So the lighting we did, it didn't really work. I wonder why. What did I do wrong? Does it say anything? Not really. Yeah, I don't really get it. Let's see. Okay, that actually worked. All right. I see. So that's what these are. I wondered what these little... They almost look like little microphones were. I get it now. Yeah. It's a light fixture, so we have them indoors too. Of course, indoors, it wouldn't be on the floor like that. Okay, well, enough philosophizing about the various lighting fixtures. We have a prisoner to collect, so I'm going to left click on him, and then we're going to right click out here. And there's like a whole, not quite cutscene, but there's a whole little drama that's about to play out. So the chief is now calling, not to be confused with the CEO. And whereas the CEO made it a point of saying it's really none of our places, to judge the man, you'll notice now that that's what everybody else does. So the chief says, don't shed one tear for this guy. He's a stone-cold killer. Guilty as charged. He even confessed. Want to hear his description of what he did? It's juicy stuff. It was around 11 p.m. The lights were already on. They knew she was home. So if you can't work it out, this is a dramatic recreation of the events of that night. And he comes home, finds the wife, and she's not alone. I knew I'd catch you two here. Edward, I don't. Just don't. What are you going to do? Nothing good. So, complete with spreading pools of blood and a big hole in his head, he's done the deed. As tutorials go, that's probably one of the more grim little vignettes I've ever seen. At any rate, the chief says clear as day, if you ask me. Deserves every volt he's gonna get. The priest has a different outlook. All men deserve forgiveness, even him. Are you so sure in yourself that you can deal out such final judgment? Catching your wife with another man is no excuse for what he did. And he went there with a loaded gun, knowing he'd find them together. That's double premeditated murder. He's done nothing but cooperate with the authorities. This state is making an example of him. If he'd committed his crime 100 miles north, he'd be looking at life imprisonment instead. How is that justice? You want a guy like this running free? I'll sleep just fine at night when I know he's gone. So again, everybody else, they have their judgments to make, their arguments about why he does or doesn't deserve this. The CEO is a little bit more businesslike. Good work so far. However, there is one problem. The execution room isn't functioning yet because it doesn't have any power. We need to connect it to the electricity supply. Yeah, it's hard to ride the lightning without electricity. So, we are now viewing the prison in utilities mode, which shows us the electrical wiring for the entire prison. Each building in the prison is connected to the power grid by these thick underground electrical cables. Power is provided to the prison by this substation, which draws electricity from the national grid. As you can see, this entire wing of prison cells is without power. All of the lights are out. To fix this problem, we first need to switch into utilities mode to understand why the lights are without power. It is baffling. The nearest the nearest electrical cables are too far away. Our engineers can't complete the wiring for this area. Extend the electrical cables nearby to cover this wing of the prison. So we're going to go into the utility screen and grab some electrical cable, because we have this revolutionary idea that if you run it all the way down to the various cells, the power might work better. Not that these prisoners seem to mind. One guy's sound asleep. Sleeping the sleep of the just, no doubt. I'm sure most of these men were innocent and framed by crooked police or got screwed by the lawyer or something like that. Well, here comes the work crews. If I am reading this correctly, it's a little before 3 a.m. here at the prison, but that's no obstacle to these men. They're dedicated professionals. Oh, I should leave the utility view on so we can see when this lights up. Yeah, I wonder how much it costs to have a huge construction crew available 24/7. That's your tax dollars at work right there. So of course they're doing the first link last, so nobody gets power until they all will. Come on. You can do it. There we go. So now we have power in this wing. And the CEO, he has some more ideas for us. Lights aren't the only thing that needs power. Your new electric chair does too. Use the power cables to connect the execution facility to the power grid. Yeah, that does seem like a good idea. The electric chair itself is a special type of electrical item. Yes, it is. It requires its own dedicated power line. You'll need to connect it up directly with mains cables. Okay, I can do that. At least I think I can. I think that's what I want. Something like that, perhaps, possibly, maybe. And we also have to connect the jail cell. So I'm not like positive exactly. How close we have to go, but at $10 per, I don't mind wasting a little bit. We have over 600,000, so hell, it's only tax dollars anyway. What do I care? Yeah, that's actually kind of a nice feeling. I've never worked for the government before. It's very freeing. Actually, the fact that there's a CEO, this is, I suppose, a privatized prison somehow. You're probably running it for the state, but your company has to break even or run a profit or something. So perhaps it won't be as freeing as I would have hoped. All right, it looks like we're pretty close to having power, and we have it. Okay. We're almost done. I think We should test the new execution room at least once before we try to use it, though. I'm just going to turn it on for a few seconds. Make sure everything is okay. That's probably best. Well, that went well. He says, well, that didn't work. Looks like we drew too much power and tripped a circuit breaker in the power station. The whole prison's dark. We're going to need more juice to be able to handle the power spike that the electric chair generates. First, we need to turn the power back on. This is a two-step process. Step 1, switch each capacitor back on by clicking on them in utilities mode. Step 2, switch the power station back on by clicking it. Then build 3 more capacitors so we have enough power capacity to handle the electric chair. Once you've done that, test the electric chair again by clicking on it in utilities mode to turn it on. Okay, so we're in utilities mode, so we're going to go ahead and click this. Now, what the tutorial doesn't tell you, but it matters, is you actually need to do this. You don't just click on the capacitor, you then say switch on. So we're going to do that. And then we're going to click on the power station. We're going to do the same thing. And now, voila, we have power. But we're not done yet, because if we try to fire up old Sparky, it's just going to run everything out of juice again. So we're going to throw down 3 capacitors like he asked us to. We don't want to do that. We want to stay in utilities mode. And now, if you can guess, what we're going to do is we're going to wait for the construction crew to bring the new capacitors. Now, I don't know that there's a time passage. Yeah, I guess there is. This is how you make it speed up, right? I think people are going to want that. Because it does get a little old. Yeah, that's what we do. So I'm going to leave it like this. And that'll cut down the wait times. Okay. So now we've installed our capacitor and it's time to check the chair. Okay, down here. Okay, let's switch it on. And I'll go ahead and just switch it off. And we have an incoming call. Well done. I believe we're finished with this job. What happens now is out of our hands. We did a professional job, and that's important in our business. Try not to worry about what happens next. Now, you may not worry about it, but we're going to show you. Oh, that's right. This isn't what happens next. This is actually something that happened earlier between the priest and our murderer. These are events prior to his arrest, as it will become clear momentarily. Can I help you? Are you looking for forgiveness? I don't know. I have to do something. I can't live with the things I've done. You have to turn yourself in. Whatever you've done, you cannot evade the consequences. You will never be able to live with yourself until you face up to your past. I want to go back. I want to forgive her. I want her to forgive me. Well, Edward, that's actually a really good reason to not kill people, because once you've done that, they really can't forgive you. Ever. But God will forgive you, at least according to the priest, no matter what you've done, if you ask him to. But you must answer for your crimes in the eyes of the law. There is no other way. So now we're back in present time, and the priest lets him know it's time. You have done the right thing, even though this world will not forgive you for it. Well, that's actually not true, by the way. Just as a matter of fact, if the right thing was turning himself in, it's not that the world won't forgive him for turning himself in. What they haven't forgiven is for when he killed his wife and the other man. And I don't think the priest means to suggest that that was the right thing. At any rate, he says, you will be with God soon, and he will have the final judgment on you. So Edward begins the long walk. Well, yeah, okay. Now Edward begins the long walk. There is no longer so, yeah, there's no clicking here or anything. This is a kind of a play that's unfolding for our benefit. And it's time. Edward Ramsey, you have been found guilty of 2 counts of murder in the 1st degree. The penalty is death. Do you have anything to say? Susan. I'm sorry. Thus endeth the tutorial. Definitely different from most you'll ever see, if not any. Nonetheless, we did learn a few basics, which hopefully will help us next time when we try to construct a prison from scratch. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that's going to be quite a bit harder and involve quite a bit less pre-canned story moments. So we'll see, but that's all we're going to cover in this session. Thank you for watching. I hope we see you next time.